Greetings, gamers everywhere. I'm Swippy92, and Ravenswatch just got their first big update, adding a new character to the game, and it's Geppetto. Not the character I expected, but a welcome one at that. As expected, well, as you would expect, I guess, from Geppetto, he's a bit of a mechanical engineer here. He creates dummies that you utilize on the battlefield to defeat your enemies. His ultimate is, well, one of his ultimates, at least, is of course a giant robot kind of dummy. At least that's what the abilities basically are. You have the dummy, which is a trait on Q that will be utilized, well, all the time, as you will see in the gameplay and from what I will tell you about the character soon. Then you have your basic attack, which is just the swing with a hammer, but this swing with a hammer can also actually heal your dummies because they do have a health bar. By swinging the hammer at them or on them, well, you heal them up. So that's a nice little thing, but I didn't use that very much as did want I did try to have the dummies in the battle, and I was mostly on the outside, going in and dashing out, letting the dummies do most of the work. The second ability is a uppercut with the hammer, which will damage enemies, but also make your dummies get pushed forward through the enemies. So uh, constructing a dummy and then just pushing it into the enemies is a good way to go at a start of a battle or a fight with the enemy. Works very well, and you have to position yourself and the dummy correctly, of course, but it takes a few hits and misses with that, but sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss. But it's a useful ability, and you really need to position yourself, which makes, again, Geppetto a very unique character to the other unique characters in this game. I love that. And then we have, of course, the standard dash ability, the dodge on space bar. We have his E ability, which is his special ability, which is a bomb that he throws out that explodes. It also heals dummies by 40% of their max health, so that is a useful tool if you want to heal up your dummies. They can die very quickly, especially against enemies, the bigger enemies with big area effects and strong attacks. They can get almost one-shotted by those big pigs that have the hook ability and the slashing ability. Yeah. And his shift ability, which is his defensive ability, is a shield. You will shield yourself and the dummies with that ability. So it's very useful for that, and it works quite well. I even managed to upgrade it so that it shields me a little bit extra, which I do like because it came very handy with, for example, the last boss as well, because of the big area of effects, damages, and all that. Shields very well. And of course, it makes your dummies last much longer. Now, as for Geppetto, well, he's very unique, as I said, which is a very welcome addition, and he's a very welcome addition to the other characters. All the characters feel unique, and Geppetto is no different from that. Now, what I do like most of it is how they have introduced the puppets, dummies, that you just place them down, and then you can push them into the enemies, and then you can place them down, more of them. Now everything is on cooldown, so you can't just spam down the dummies and then just push them in and push them in and push them in. You have to actually manage your cooldowns and your position. So that is an important thing to know. Now, as a first trait that I got to choose was either I get a sort of jetpack flame trail, that kind of thing, which would with the availability, which would have been really cool. But I went with the special grenade ability instead, which where I threw a grenade, it dealt damage, but it also spawned a dummy, which allowed me to actually throw the grenade and a dummy into the enemy right in middle, without having to spawn one and then push it in. It also allowed me to spawn two dummies very quickly. So that was very handy for me. I'm not sure if the availability would have been better, but I have to say, going with that grenade, the grenade dummy spawning, yeah, that worked very well for me, and I think I prefer that, at least for now. I will of course be playing more and try out the different traits just to see what difference there are. Now, the biggest problem I think with Geppetto is that he's very frail. I mean, his health bar is very low, but he's a melee character, but he needs to be played as more of a support, I think is the word here. He supports his dummies in battle, and they do the work, most of the work, at least. Of course, Geppetto himself is not defenseless or weak in any way. He's just as capable of dealing damage as his dummies. Now, in the beginning, though, yeah, just let your dummies do the talking. Now, another thing that one thing I was very surprised at was that if you place down the dummies, you can max out by placing three dummies plus the ultimate. Now, the number of dummies you can place is indicated above your head, below the health bar, as you can see. Now, by placing down one disappears, and you can instantly pick them up by pressing R if you go up to the dummy. But you don't need to do that to make them come back. I mean, if you run out of range, they just come back instantly. And if they die, you can place them down instantly again. If you have placed down all three and you lose one, you can instantly place down a new one. So there's no cooldown on that, and I like that. It makes it very balanced because of the low health bar that these dummies have. Because if you actually had to wait a certain amount of time, or it would take longer to regenerate a new dummy because it got destroyed, well, yeah, you would become defenseless at one point, especially when going to the more difficult enemies or the bosses. Yeah. So that is a very good balancing thing I think they made. I don't feel underpowered and I don't feel overpowered with Geppetto, at least not the way I played this time, the first time here. He feels very well balanced for the world and the map, the enemies. Now, I did play on normal, so there's no nightmare difficulty added here, so yeah, this one was very normal playish. I had all the standard difficulty settings, so there was no extra difficult enemies or anything like that. So yeah, that did, of course, sway a little bit in my favor, but yeah, I didn't feel overpowered here or underpowered. So I hope at higher difficulties I won't feel too weak, but I don't think that will be the case. No, most new nightmares don't add difficulty scaling in the sense of more health or more damage to the enemies. Only new enemies and less revival feathers and more health to the mm, boss and such. Now, when fighting the boss, speaking of that one, I did notice that when spawning the ultimate uh, ultimate puppet, well, he kind of went for the boss, and that actually surprised me because of how he does go for the closest enemy. So that wasn't the surprise, but what was surprising was how much he actually managed to take down the health of the boss. Because I kind of failed my first attempt or my first go for the boss, because I died just as I had taken down all the tentacles. So as I was gonna attack the boss, I was dead for the most of the time. But then I spawned the ultimate and he started bashing the boss as I went on to the tentacles again. And suddenly, the second time I was about to attack the boss, he had gone down to almost half health. So yeah, these bots, these dolls, dummies, I mean, they can be really useful at the boss. Yeah, I just bash them into the boss and just go for the tentacles yourself, maybe. I did upgrade myself to that. I think it was the third strike in my basic attack combo did 400% extra damage. So that helped me a lot for actually damaging both the boss and the tentacles. Other than that, yeah, I don't know what else I can say about Geppetto. He's a good character, and I like this update. They also made a bunch of different things to this update, like for changes in the game. I mean, for example, they added so that you can teleport from anywhere on the map instead of having to go to a Raven teleporter. At least that's what I call them. You can actually teleport from anywhere on the map. Just press tab and then you can choose where to teleport to any Raven teleporter or to the starting area or starting location. Now, you can't be in combat to teleport. You have to be out of combat to teleport, but you can teleport from anywhere. So that is a nice thing. I like that. Because actually finding a teleport and then teleporting back could be problematic at times when you're nearing the boss spawn. Another thing they added is additional upgrades, or not upgrades, well, upgrades, I guess, but additional, what's the word? Ultimates. Additional ultimates for all the characters, all the existing ones, and also to Geppetto himself. So I'll be sure to check those ultimates out and possibly even do a video on those ultimate abilities. But yeah, that's been it for me for this video. I've been Swip92. Have a great life and hope to see you in future videos. Bye bye.